Alright, the following presentation is on the syllabus topic, ethics. So please pay attention to the information that will be discussed. Pretty much at intellectual property, copyrights, and plagiarism. Alright, so those are the main aspects that we're going to look at. The 7 objectives fall on the syllabus topic. However, we would have looked at item number 7 and 6. So we are only going to look at items 1 to 5, which looks specifically at intellectual property rights. Alright, so what is ethics? Now, ethics is a set of moral principles, and these moral principles guide our behavior as individuals or as groups. So within a professional setting or an organizational setting, we have certain principles that guide how we behave. Now, in particular, we deal with computers, and we've been talking about security issues, privacy issues, and the whole idea of persons infringing on your rights as it relates to sensitive information. So, ethics covers these principles that should guide our behavior, and as we look at intellectual property rights, right, these are some of the issues that also fall within computer ethics. And we're going to see how countries or laws have been put in place to help protect persons from these issues that relates to their privacy and their rights, and the whole use of computers within our society. So, what is intellectual property? Intellectual property deals with the protection of the rights of persons who produce, gather, or disseminate ideas and information. So, for instance, we have persons who create certain work, like authors, singers, journalists, right, architects. All these are intellectual property, and this is providing protection to these persons in terms of right of ownership. So there's an organization known as WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, and basically all regulation or laws and principles as it relates to intellectual property rights stems from this organization. So it's a specialized agency that falls under the mandate of the United Nations, and their mandate is to protect intellectual property throughout the world, right? So every country basically has their own laws, as we know, but in regards to intellectual property, these laws will all fall in line with the global intellectual property laws. So, intellectual property, as I said before, involves creations of the minds, and this comes straight from WIPO's website, right? Which you can also go to and seek some other information. So, creation of the minds, such as inventions, literary, artistic work, designs, symbols, names, images that are used in commerce. So, intellectual property is protected in law, right? For example, we have copyrights, which we're going to focus on mostly. We have patents and trademarks also, which enable people to earn recognition or beneficial um, financially benefits financially from what they invent, right? And we're going to talk about the royalties, which is the financial benefit that they would seek. So intellectual property includes these 3 main aspects. First, we have the work, which must be created. This is the basic element of intellectual property. Without the work, which is the information or the knowledge or the objects that are created from the information and knowledge, this is the foundation of intellectual property. So it starts with the work. Then we have the people, those persons who are protected, sorry, or whose work is protected. So they are the ones who are producing the intellectual property. So we have novelists, playwrights, film writers, architects, photographers. These are persons who create the actual intellectual property. Then we have the laws. So laws protect these two, number one and two. So laws protect the work and the owners or the producers, giving them that statutory expression of their rights as owners. So they have a right to create and express themselves, right? Within the law, of course. They have a right to copy and distribute their work, right? And they have a right to allow access to the public. So that's why you can go on the internet, you can find resources, information that these owners have put out there, some of which are what we call shareware, like softwares that are given freely to use. But then there are those that you have to seek permission or to purchase in order to have access to the information, right? And of course, the laws also promote fair trade because there are persons who are investing money into creating things or inventions, and it's only fair that they are protected so that other persons would not use that product or that idea or information to their own benefit, right? So it allows fair trade, and in all, it allows economic development of that country, right? So the laws are very important in protecting intellectual property. All right, so what is ethics? Property. And of course, from all that we're going to talk about in relation to intellectual property, these are some key terms that we're going to come across, right? We're going to look at these two broad categories: industrial property and copyrights. Now, we focusing more on copyrights because we are mainly focusing on information, communication of information, dealing with that kind of thing as part of the EDPM syllabus. So we are more leaning towards the copyrights, right? But the first category, which is industrial property, I'm going to also go through that so you know exactly what they mean. Property, we have patents, right? So when you create an invention, like you invent a product or process, right? The government, which of course will be the statutory power, would give you for a limited time, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on the country that you're in. In most cases, you get 20 years from the time you file or applied for that property right. Right? So what it does, it exclude other persons from making that same invention or product or using your process or product, selling it or importing it without your consent, right? So you have full rights of that invention. So things like products, devices, systems, compositions, processes, methods, right? All those are patented. So intellectual property includes these three main aspects. First, we have the work, which must be created. This is the basic element of intellectual property. Without the work, which is the information or the knowledge or the objects that are created from the information and knowledge, this is the foundation of intellectual property. So it starts with the work. Then we have the people, those persons who are protected, sorry, or whose work is. All right, so what is ethics? Now, ethics is a set of moral principles, and these moral principles guide our behavior as individuals or as groups. So, within a professional setting or an organizational setting, we have certain principles that guide how we behave. Now, in particular, we deal with computers, and we've been talking about security issues, privacy issues, and the whole idea of persons infringing on your rights as it relates to is to use this trademark, as we know, as in some case like McDonald's, right? If any company is to use their trademark, then they will have to get or seek permission, right, in order to use the brand name. So remember we talked about franchising where you get a license, right? So licensing is part of the process where then we have industrial design. Now we know there are persons who create things and there are unique shape. So visually, you could see a shape, a pattern, right? As it relates to something that is manufactured. Let's take, for instance, the mobile phones, right? So they come with particular shapes and configuration and patterns based on how they're made, right? Same thing applies to things like tools and machines, etc. So these companies will protect their design so that no other company or individual could use that without their permission. Again, whether it's through licensing or such. So this is a typical example. So we have famous example Crocs, and then we have those that are infringing on the brand, and then we have Apple, and then we see companies in the mobile industry that are actually infringing or imitating and come really close to how the brand or the product is configured or shaped or designed, right? So you can protect your design. Then we have geographical indications. Now this one is a bit broader than the others in that yes, it gives you protection, right, legally, but it relates to a geographical territory. So certain goods, based on the territory they belong to, they have protection from a geographical standpoint, right? Now there are some property we have patents, right? So when you create an invention, like you invent a product or process, right? The government, which of course will be the statutory power, would give you for a limited time, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on the country that you're in. In most cases, you get 20 years from the time you file or applied for that. Right, so now we switch over to the second category, which is copyrights. Now, copyrights give you protection from persons copying your work, right? So you have the exclusive right over your creation, right? Creation meaning literary, musical, or artistic work, right? Now, most of the times when you look at these type of work, you see a little C symbol in a circle, which stands for copyright. It's copyrighted, right? So that symbol tells you this work is copyrighted. Now, sometimes you may not see the symbol, but based on the law, right? Once these persons have seek the rights to reserve their work, they would be given legal protection just the same. It means that you cannot infringe on persons who have created work and use it to your own will. So there are two types of copyright rights under copyright, right? We have economic rights, and this means that owners who create these work have the right to some financial reward. So if you're going to use an artist of a musical song, their work, they have the right to get financial reward, right? They have the right to allow others permission first to produce or to reproduce or to perform their work or to broadcast it on the radio, for instance, or to use it in a show or any form of communication, right? They have the right to get financial rewards from the use of it. They also have a moral right to preserve their work, meaning to preserve the work as theirs, meaning an authorship, and also the right of respect, meaning persons do not infringe on it or do not tarnish their work or use it to 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 do something that will cause their work to not be what it's supposed to be, right? So that is what moral rights cover, right? Looking at the protection that the author will get, right? Sometimes persons may distort or modify other person's work, or maybe in some derogatory way, you try to make, use the work for some prejudicial issue or something like that when it is not the case. So people have the right to protect their work and to protect the reputation and integrity of their work, and the law gives them that moral right. So I keep referring to the law, and of course, we're talking about an act. So in every country, you have copyright acts, just as how you have Trademark Acts, etc. We have Copyright Acts, and those copyrights reserve the rights to the owner based on the laws that are put down. So copyrights also have a time frame to it. So based on the country you're in, you may be given a certain timeline that will protect you. In terms of financial gains, right? If a person needs to use your work, you have to give them license to use that work. And also you will gain royalties, which is the financial reward that you will get from allowing the person to use your work, right? So many artists who create musical pieces, etc., that is how they gain financial reward. So that's the economic rights that they're benefiting from by allowing persons to use their music to, to market, that other business, service, or product. Right. So we move over now to how does copyright differ from plagiarism? Now, plagiarism is very popular. We know of it. I'm sure many of us have probably done it, right? Sometimes intentionally we plagiarize, sometimes unintentionally. So we're going to clarify here how copyright infringement differs from plagiarism. Now, as we said, copyright is where someone's work is protected from the unauthorized reproduction and selling also by other persons. So if you're using somebody's work and you're not given permission to do so, whether it be copy or sell, and um, you're doing so giving um, without that permission, then you are infringing on their copyright. So let's say someone creates a song, put it on a CD, and you got the CD, whether you purchase it, and then you start creating copies of it and selling it to the public. That is copyright infringement because you were not given permission by the original producer of that piece of work to reproduce it. Plagiarism, on the other hand, is using the person's work and not citing or giving them credit for it. So, for instance, you may give a presentation and you take certain words from the person's song, but you did not give credit to it. You pass it off as yours. That is plagiarism. So you basically have to cite or reference that, according to so and so in his song, so and so. This is, so you give credit to the person's work. Now, of course, copyright infringement is an illegal act, right? So you can get into criminal or civil um, problems based on copyright infringement, right? There are cases where I know locally persons or organizations have been fined for infringing on copyrights of persons like software copyright, etc. Jail time is an option also. So the law provides for certain penalties, right? So it is important that we understand that. Now, plagiarism, because you are more so using aspects of people's work, it is more an academic and ethical penalty. So there are consequences, but it may not always transfer to civil matters. But in some cases, it can, right? Dependent on the level of it. Right. So copyright has a period, right? So as I said, there's a time frame. So let's say it grants 50 years to the person, right? Um, that is a time span. Plagiarism is something that's perpetual, meaning it can always occur. Right? So that is how they differ there. Alright, so of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are certain materials and information that are for your free use. So if it's allowed freely, like certain softwares, sharewares, they're offered free, you could download free, then that is not copyright infringement. But once the persons have the protection and you are aware of the protection and you still infringe on it, then that's copyright infringement. Plagiarism, of course, if there's no author, then that's an exception. You're not plagiarizing if there's no author, right? But there is a way to state that the author is unknown while still giving credit that it is someone's idea and not yours, right? So there are exceptions to these. So, what is plagiarism? Based on everything I just said, presenting words, ideas, images, sounds, or creative expression of others as yours. So, you write a nice project for your teacher and you did not give credit to the ideas and words and expression that you use from other persons, that is plagiarism, and that has some consequences too. So, quoting a source directly, and let's say you quote a poem or story or even an article from the internet, and there's no quotation marks, because quotation marks, as we know in grammar rules, you're supposed to put your quotation marks when you're using exact wording, right? So you need to cite that properly. Some people, buy papers online, meaning they get certain sites to do their papers, or they download a paper that may be what they want. This is also plagiarism because it's not your work, it's not your wording or ideas. Copying work from someone else. So you let's say your teacher gave you an assignment, everybody in the class had to do the same assignment. You got somebody else's work, you copied portions of it or all of it and pass it off as yours. That is plagiarism also. If you use sources, sometimes you create, let's say I give you a project and I ask you to put your sources and you just copied some sources anywhere but it doesn't match. That is plagiarism because you're not giving credit to the ideas, the owner of the ideas that you'd have used, right? And so there are many instances of plagiarize, as mentioned, there. So whether it be incorrect information about the source, whether it be you're not quoting, whether it be you're copying from other person's work and you're not giving credit, even something as simple as copying parts. Let's say you saw an article online and you copy some of the words and you change a few of the words, that is still plagiarism, right? So you have to be very careful to not plagiarize. Right, so now we switch over to the second category, which is copyrights. Now, copyrights give you protection from persons copying your work, right? So you have the exclusive right over your creation, right? Creation meaning literary, musical, or artistic work, right? Now, most of the times when you look at these type of work, you see a little C symbol in a circle, which stands for copyright. It's copyrighted, right? So that symbol tells you this work is copyrighted. Now, sometimes you may not see the symbol, but based on the law, right? Once these persons have seek the rights to reserve their work, they would be given. So citing your sources, as I said, use in-text citations and a bibliography. So those are the two ways for citing. And if you have to quote exact wording, right? If you have to paraphrase, well, not if, you should paraphrase, right? So you restate the idea but in your own words and you give reference to who the idea belongs to. Also, summarizing, right? So these are some things that would help you not to plagiarize, right? So these are some examples. There are different bodies that assist with the method of being able to source, right? So you have the MLA, Chicago Manual, and you have the APA. Now, in our region, we use the APA. So most organizations like universities, etc., we use the APA style, right? Which is the American Psychological Association referencing style. So when you're citing your sources, there are ways that you set it down. So for instance, in the body of your text, there's a way to set that down, right? Using the APA style. And then in your bibliography, there's a way to set it down using the APA style, right? Place there a website for you to look out or to find so that you can you know, check it out as to how to properly cite and reference your information so that you don't plagiarize. Right? This is an example also which you have been shown before on how to set down your references in your bibliography. So starting with your author, last name first, and initial for your first name. If you have more than one person, you separate it by a comma and then "and" for the last name. In bracket here, you have the year which the information was published. Then you put the title, whether it's a book or an article, you put the title. So in this case, it's a book. All right. A hanging indent is used, which means the second line you indent one space. All right. And then you put the publishing country, so that's New York, and then you put the publisher. Right. So this is how you set down in the APA style for a book. So when you go to the website, you'll be able to see plagiarize as mentioned, there. So whether it be incorrect information about the source, whether it be you're not quoting, whether it be you're copying from other person's work and you're not giving credit, even something as simple as copying parts. Let's say you saw an article online and you copy some of the words and you change a few of the words, that is still plagiarism, right? So you have to be very careful to not plagiarize. Want to make sure that you understand every aspect. If you have any questions, please send it to Google Classroom so that we can get you prepared for exam. And please remember to practice your multiple choice questions or quizzes posted online so that you can be ready for exam. Right.